Welcome back, demigods, monsters, and gods alike, to the Olympus Report. Let's take a trip to the St. Louis Archway, Half-Bloods. Here's everything you may have missed in episode 4 of Percy Jackson. I take a plunge. Before we get to episode 4, a lot of you pointed out in my episode 3 breakdown that I made a mistake. The Oracle does indeed take the form of Gabe in the book, something I think I may have blocked out of my memory because I still think it's stupid. They should have changed it. But moving on. This episode is special because it's completely uncharted territory. Despite how bad the Percy Jackson movie was, it was pretty similar to episode 1, 2, 3. They shared a lot of scenes. But episode 4 is all completely new. Scenes we've never seen before, and there's nothing to compare to. Now, adaptation-wise, it's very similar to episode 3. The main plot is the same and the things that happen are the same, but the way in which they happen and how we get there is very different. The episode starts off with a flashback to little Percy with Sally taking swimming lessons. And Percy is afraid of water, something that was definitely not in the book. In fact, in the book, Percy mentions how he always feels a sense of comfort near the water. So I was definitely not on board with this change at first. But it does pay off in the end, and for the narration that they're going within the TV show, it kind of makes sense. The whole absentee dad angle. In the book, Percy didn't like his father, but in the TV show, he really does not like the guy. And honestly, why should he? Now, I know I just said that this episode doesn't share any scenes with the movie, but I couldn't help but notice how this opening shot is very similar to the opening shot of the 2010 movie. Okay, moving on. No more talk of the movie. Percy then has another dream, a voice taunting him. However, unlike in the book, the voice doesn't speak of his mom or how the voice wants the Master Ball, but there's still time for that to develop. Percy then wakes up on the train, and the biggest sin so far is that they left out Gladys, the pink poodle. But I guess priorities. Percy and Annabeth then have a really touching moment where Percy voices his thoughts and Annabeth comforts him in a very Annabeth way. This convo is very similar to the one they have on the truck ride to Vegas in the book. But I kind of like that it's coming sooner and that they're building their friendship quicker. Annabeth also reveals her past, the struggle she has with her father, and as she speaks, she clutches her father's ring on her necklace. A great added detail as it symbolizes that despite what Annabeth says, she still does wish for her dad and his comfort. Grover then wakes up, and apparently when he doesn't get his 8 hours, he is very grumpy, a detail which I think is great. I also like how they keep hinting at Grover's appetite.
What's Froofy? I think I need to eat.
But I'm still waiting for him to eat a tin can. In the morning, our trio spots some wild centaurs, and it leads to a much-awaited conversation about Pan, the lost god of the wild, and how satyrs dedicate their lives to becoming a searcher and finding him. And you can see the longing in Grover's face. Our trio is then apprehended for damage to their train car, reported by a woman that comes over to talk to our heroes, playing the worried mom card. A hint at her true identity. Annabeth, the genius that she is, figures it out. She's Echidna, mother of monsters. And the tone switch in Echidna's voice after they figure out who she is absolutely terrifying. And then she says something really interesting. She mentions how her grandmother is their great-grandmother and that they're all a family. And who is this woman? Well, it's none other than Gaia, the main antagonist in the Heroes of Olympus series. An absolutely brilliant Easter egg. Then, much like in the book, she reveals her baby, as she calls it. And it sounds something like the mix between a chihuahua and a dragon. And then our heroes figure out that this is the Chimera, but we never actually see it. A great storytelling device. As seen in the movie Jaws, we don't actually see the monster until the very end. Just hints, shadows, and the destruction that it causes, and this really works to build suspense. And once again, the mist representation in this show is great. I love how mortal perceive things. Now, in the book, our trio doesn't run into Echidna and the Chimera until the archway. But I like the added suspense of meeting her on the train. And honestly, in the book, it kinda doesn't make sense why our trio would derail their quest to go visit the archway, no matter how much Annabeth wanted to see it. This gives them a reason to go to the archway. It's a temple of Athena, and I absolutely love this added detail. However, because of this reasoning, Annabeth doesn't freak out over architecture. It's not explicitly stated, but it is hinted at. Annabeth talks all about the archway design, and how it's an architectural feat. So her passion for it is definitely hinted at, just not outwardly stated like in the book. Once inside the museum archway, there's a great scene where Grover grieves at the injustices caused by humans. And it's just another small detail that's really adding to Grover's development, hinting at who he is. Our heroes then realize that Percy has been poisoned, a strike that came from the Chimera on the train, and normal water isn't healing him. So they decide to pray to Athena for help at the top of the archway, but they find out Athena isn't happy with them over the whole Medusa head thing. So Annabeth decides to fight Echidna so Percy can get to the river and hopefully heal. But Percy tricks her and locks her and Grover outside, showcasing once again Percy's fatal flaw, his undying loyalty to his friends and his lack of care for his own safety. And yes, I said friends. I absolutely love the Percabeth development in this episode. This scene right here is absolutely too adorable.
If I have to stick with someone...
Careful. I think you're about to call me a friend.
You can see them starting to understand each other, the friendship forming. And it shows as Percy then takes on the Chimera. And the battle is okay. Don't get me wrong, it's great. It was just so much more epic in the book. And honestly, that's my one complaint with the show so far. It's not the pacing and it's not the changes from the book, it's the lack of action. I feel like almost every action sequence has been cut short. Hopefully it's to build up to something truly epic in the second half. Then Percy falls out of the archway and Rick Riordan's mistake is finally fixed, Half-Bloods. In the book, Percy falls right down into the river. But the river isn't under the archway. Percy should have went splat. Well, the show once again fixes a geographical mistake. The river reaches out to save Percy. In other words, Poseidon reaching out to save Percy, finally helping his son. And because they've played up the whole absentee dad thing and Percy's resentment towards Poseidon, this scene hits so much harder than in the book. In the book, we were like, okay, Poseidon's helping Percy. But here, we're like, Poseidon's finally helping Percy. Once Percy is in the river, it literally looks like a scene right out of the book. Absolutely breathtaking. Percy is panicking, but then a voice tells Percy to relax. Much like in the beginning of the episode, how Sally told Percy to relax in the pool. Perhaps a nod to in the book, Percy said that the water nymph looked and sounded a lot like his mom. So I really like how they drew connection with storytelling. And when the voice says that Poseidon is proud of Percy, Percy finally relaxes and accepts the water, realizing that there is nothing to be afraid of. Percy takes a big breath and the episode ends. Overall, a solid episode. The highlights are definitely the connection between our trios and especially the growing friendship between Percy and Annabeth. It's like discovering Percabeth all over again. But due to some of the changes and the lack of action, in my opinion, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Still a really solid episode in my opinion, but my least favorite of the 4 we've gotten so far. But let me know what you thought in the comments down below. But until episode 5, I'm signing off. And please, Half-Bloods, always remember to stay safe.